Last time, when we ranked all the base game plants. So it's gonna be a solid C tier, the standard plant, double F tier, stupid flower, D tier, easy S tier. Alright, back in action. Time to talk about the DLCs. To keep it simple, we are going to go in chronological order of release here. The Bionic Pack didn't add any new plants, so we're going to skip that one completely. These plants will be judged not only on how they work in their own pack, but how they work with the game as a whole, starting with the first DLC, Spaced Out. While we don't get many changes to the first Planetoid's biomes, we do get one new biome, the Wasteland, which is home to the Spindly Grubfruit plant, which takes sulfur and grows within normal pressure and average temperature requirements. On its own, it's honestly a B tier plant, simple to farm, simple results, consistent as it can be. But if you put a Sweetle in the same room as the plant, it will become tended or pollinated and grow into a grub fruit instead, taking the same resources but making a much better result. When combined with sugar from the Sweetles, it makes a mid-quality, long-lasting food. Grubfruit Preserve, my favorite food for space travel, as it keeps so well. A tier for the Grubfruit plant, 10 out of 10, pilots all recommend. If we head to normally the second planetoid in the Spaced Out DLC, we find the Swampy biome, home to the Bog Bucket, a plant that takes polluted water and turns it directly into food. With a normal pressure and temperature requirement, it's kind of the mealwood of this world, being an easy early setup source of food, but considering that it can only be made into swampy delights, which aren't great, it's mostly a dead end for mid-game food, making it a solid D tier. There's one more biome in this DLC though that has a new plant. The radioactive biome isn't only home to betas, but also Saturn critter traps. The first carnivorous plant on our list, they consume critters around them and exhale hydrogen. Now this might not sound super useful, but considering the beta hives pour out a veritably infinite amount of drones, the Saturns can easily be fed a constant supply of meat and will pressurize the area they are in indefinitely. That's right, while many other plants have an upper pressure limit, these bad boys don't have an upper bound at all on pressure, so they can fill the space they are in indefinitely. A tier, infinite hydrogen at insane pressures is one of the best ways to store energy. Before we move out of the Spaced Out DLC and into the smaller planet packs, let's also update our board with the decorative plants. They're all going into F tier, the Bliss Burst and the Mellow Mallow, to the trash with you, you don't bring anything new. Now, onto the Frosty planet pack. All these plants are going to have lower temps, which really aren't going to help their ranking, but let's do it. First off, the mealwood equivalent, the Pikeapple. It takes phosphorite, has low temperature bounds, normal pressure range, and can only be brought up one tier through cooking. Unless you use the prehistoric planet pack. Then you can make a decent meal out of it, not great, but pretty decent. In line with mealwood, I'm gonna put it in C tier, it's pretty mid. But the other plant you can make for food, the Plume Squash, is far better. It takes ethanol, has a similar lowered temperature range and normal pressure range, but yields far more food. It can be turned into squash fries in just one step, or it can be fed to Bamus for a crazy amount of meat production. Very efficient, wish it didn't take so much ethanol though. A tier. Now, one of the other features the Frosty Planet Pack adds is the need to keep hypothermia at bay. This is mitigated early game by burning wood in little burners to warm your duplicates. But everything is so cold you cannot grow arbor trees easily, especially early in the game. Instead you use this, introducing the Bonbon Tree. Like the arbor, it is a multi-block plant that grows out to the sides and its branches can be harvested for wood. Unlike the arbor, it takes snow, requires light, and can also be tapped for nectar, which is a replacement for petroleum in the plastic press. You'd think this makes it a great plant, but the snow is the problem. By late or even mid-game, you've mined most of the snow on planet and are dependent on icy asteroid showers to get more. And the amount you get from those showers isn't enough to keep even a few trees growing. So while it's a powerful plant, its usefulness has a time limit tied to how much snow you can find, making it a sad D tier. I wish there was a better way to get snow. There's one more plant in this pack though, and it's actually a substitute for the oxyfern. It's called the Alveo Vera. It has a low temperature range and a normal pressure range, but in exchange for just ice, it fixates all the CO2 out of its environment and turns it into oxalite, which can be redistributed to your base or used in rockets as a very potent oxidizer. And for the versatility and usefulness, this is an easy A tier. More Oxyfern clones, always good. Now before we move on to the next pack, there is one more thing we need to handle. Adila flowers and Tranquil Toes are going directly into F tier. Decor plants will never be that good. We're nearly done with all the DLCs, but before we get to the last one, I have a surprise for all of you. There is a plant in the game files that has never been released properly. It's called the Hydrocactus. It was supposed to be a way of filtering water without machinery or critters. It would have taken 65 kilograms of polluted water, 5 kilograms of sand per cycle, and 8 1/3 grams of oxygen per second, wild or domesticated. But when harvested, it would have made 350 kilograms of water. This, however, means that with its 10-cycle domestic growth time, in its current state, it deletes water. A lot of water. It definitely would have needed rebalancing, but judging it as it is, F tier. More useful wild than domestic, barely useful either way. Alright, we are now on to the final DLC currently out, the Prehistoric Planet Pack. Newly released this month, so if any of these stats are changed, don't hold it against me. There's a lot more plants in this pack than the last two though, so I'm going to jump right in. The first plant you're likely to encounter is the Ovagro node, which takes in 90 kilograms of water per day and has a creeping vine mechanic, with normal pressure and temperature ratings as well. It can creep a pretty decent distance on both sides of the node itself. Each vine is capable of making Ovagro fruit, which while it can't be used for any food recipes itself, it can be used as a very good feed for many of the pack's critters. Overall, it's a solid B tier, better than a mealwood equivalent, but just barely. Another plant you'll find right off the start is the Mimika Bud. These guys are honestly very unique. They take dirt and grow a bulb that will hatch into a little bug-like thing that isn't a critter, but it isn't a plant, and it will fly around for a few cycles, pollinating any plant it can reach, boosting their production. Then, when its wings shrivel, it turns into a Mimika seed that can either be replanted or cooked for basic food. With normal temperature and pressure tolerances, it's a crop booster that only costs dirt. A tier. Finally, in the starting biome, there's also Sweatcorn. With pollination and a little bit of peat each cycle, Sweatcorn can be a very decent food supply, which with one trip to the slow cooker makes veggie poppers, a very high quality meal for being a one-step early game recipe. B tier, decent all-arounder. Once you step out of the garden starting biome, there are two others that this pack adds. Let's start with the feather biome. This is a colder biome focused around a feathered critter called a Rex, but there are two plants here too. The Dewdropper takes in brine ice, a material not used before with plants, and turns it into dewdrops, which are a food supply for dartlets, a decent meat supply themselves that can also be fed to the Rexes or farmed for their chlorine and bleachstone. This cycle really works best when applied along with the next plant, but on its own, it's still kinda useful to make chlorine. C tier. The other plant you will find in the feather biome though is the Megafrond, a tree that produces Megafrond grain. While the tree itself cannot be harvested for wood, the Megafrond grain can be used interchangeably with sleetwheat seeds. Instead of taking water and dirt though, the Megafrond absorbs chlorine around it in its environment. With its lower temperature range and a minimum pressure, it's about as annoying as sleetwheat to grow, but it's achieved differently. B tier. The other biome you'll find with the new pack is the wetlands biome, a slightly warmer biome with lots of water, and for good reason too. In the water, growing upside down is Seakomb, a plant that grows quickly whether wild or domesticated, takes polluted dirt when it is domesticated, and can be used to feed paku, or harvested for its leaves, which can be a great source of phyto oil and biodiesel for most of the game. Considering its low input material and the fact that it grows in water, pretty much eliminating its pressure needs, it's a plant that is honestly hard to kill, and it makes a lot of resource. A tier. Now, the final plant in the pack is kind of the plant that makes the wetlands my favorite biome of any of the DLCs. The Lura Plant is in a class all its own. It's the second carnivorous plant we've seen on this list, but it doesn't sit on the ground. Instead, it eats flying critters, and in exchange, it produces amber, a new material that when put into the plant pulverizer makes fossil, sand, and resin. Now, fossil on its own is well worth the labor for this plant, but resin? Resin can be used to make insulation, one of the 4 late-game space materials. And now it's growable on your starting asteroid. That is a game changer right there. Ceramic has always been good enough for me, but with this being so cheap, I am going to be using insulation in my coming builds. Just because of this plant. S tier all the way. There is one decor plant left. The ring rosebush is added by the prehistoric planet pack, and it's going down to hang out with its buddies in F tier. It doesn't do anything. There are better decor items still. And with that, we've got almost all of the plants in the entire game. But real quick, we need to talk about the non-plantable plants, which is oxymoronical as it is. These would be muckroot, hexalent, swamp chard, sureberry, and snactus. All of them are going straight into D tier. Early game, yeah, they're food, they have some use, which is why they aren't going into F tier with the decor plants. But let's be real, they aren't dependable. The fact that they don't spoil is nice, but they have no recipes. And oh yeah, you can't propagate them. They have no future. Their purpose is to be eaten once, then let your dupes starve if you don't have proper farms or ranches set up. They are meant to be a dead end. Now, let's take all the plants we ranked in this video and combine them with all the plants from the last video. But with that, we have now ranked every single plant in Oxygen Not Included and all of the current DLCs. If you liked all this work, be sure to let me know down below. Follow for more gaming nonsense, and be sure to always have spare oxygen. Later!